Whether it's selling up a storm or being loaded on the back of a flatbed, there's no doubt the new Toyota Prado has been generating massive headlines since its late 2024 launch. Now it's time to compare it against its closest rival, the Ford Everest. A couple of years ago, the Everest knocked off the old Series Pardo in a car sales comparo, as it should have. But the new 250 Series Prado is a very different beast that's been dramatically upgraded. So which comes out on top? Well, let's go and compare the pair and find out. The Everest and the Prado are the leading lights in the large 4x4 wagon space. Rolling on ladder frames with diesel engines and dual-range drivetrains, they are the go-anywhere 7-seat dream machines for adventurous Aussie families. We thought the Everest was a bit of a price gouge when it launched a few years ago, but the new Prado really puts it in the shade. This is the GXL 7-seat family version, and it's gone up more than $10,000 compared to the old model. That makes it more than $5,000 more expensive than this Everest Sport, even with the big V6 3-litre turbo diesel engine optioned. Add in drive-away pricing and the gap stretches even more. When it comes to servicing, these two go in different directions. Each service will cost you more for the Ford, but the time and distance intervals are longer. So over 5 years of cap price servicing, the Prado actually costs more. You also have to pay a minimum $99 for roadside assist each year with the Toyota, but you get it for free for up to 7 years in the Ford as long as you service at one of its dealers. The Everest is a spin-off from the Ranger Ute and really looks like it. The Sport is the cheapest way into a V6 engine in the lineup. Our example rolled on 18-inch black alloys and all-terrain rubber, which are a no-cost option. Undoubtedly, one of the universally lauded aspects of the 250 Series Prado is its unique exterior design. It channels past Land Cruisers and has a boxy ethos that people really seem to like. One of the thoughtful features of the Prado is the slightly larger panel gaps around the front bumper, designed to minimise damage if contact is made when off-roading. When it comes to numbers under the bonnet, the Ford has the advantage with its 3-litre V6 turbo diesel engine. It's bigger, it's got 2 more cylinders, more power, more torque, and its 10-speed auto has 2 more gears. On the surface, nothing much changes under the bonnet of the new Prado. It's the same 2.8-litre 4-cylinder diesel engine with the same power and torque figures as the old engine. However, it does add 48 mild hybrid electrification, which gives a claimed drivability and fuel economy improvement, something that's also aided by the change from a 6 to 8-speed auto. There's another thing to note about the new Prado's drivetrain, and that is the addition of AdBlue, which is designed to clean up noxious emissions. It also means that's another fluid for you to keep an eye on. Of course, the Everest also has AdBlue injected into its exhaust stream. Haul yourself into the driver's seat of the Everest Sport and you'll find yourself a pretty welcoming place to be. 10-way power adjustable seat that's big and comfy. Reach and rake manually adjustable steering, so you can get yourself well set up here. I'm just not sure about this slightly down market trim on the rim. It's predominantly dark in here with some flashes of lighter materials to brighten the mood. Like the Ranger, the Everest is built in Thailand and it all seems well stitched and bolted together. No real complaints on that score. As all these big 4x4 wagons should deliver, the Everest Sport offers lots of upfront storage space. The double glove boxes are the highlight, while the big door bins and centre littered bin also help out. The secure location for your phone when wireless charging should ensure it doesn't go flying around the cabin under acceleration or during brisk cornering. This big touchscreen is the obvious centrepiece when it comes to tech in the Everest Sport's cabin. Okay, primarily, because it's so big, things are very easy to read, like sat-nav screens. But also I appreciate some detail touches here. These shortcut buttons allow you to access frequently used features very handily. And I also appreciate these physical buttons down the bottom for volume and air conditioning. There's also sliders as well to help you adjust the air conditioning. All in all, very well thought out and very easy to use. The digital instrument panel, however, is less successful. Really, the bar graph tacho is basically useless. Look, there is a better 2-dial digital instrument panel that Ford has, which it uses only in the Platinum flagship model of the Everest, and I really think it should be spread more widely across the range. Time for an update, Ford. The Everest does offer embedded sat-nav and communication systems, and it's one of the better ones kicking around. But CarPlay is very easy to hook up and is still more intuitive than the native system. The big screen certainly helps display camera views, but the resolution is not that great and the views provided are quite limited. In addition to parking sensors and camera views, there are no auto parking aids in the Everest Sport. Step into the driver's seat of the new Prado, and this cabin is definitely a lot more modern than the model it replaces, as it should be. However, GXL family model, not very cheerful, is it? It's pretty dark. It makes it feel all a little bit closed in and claustrophobic. Also, compared to the Everest, no power adjustment on the front passenger seat for 80 grand plus. Wow. However, the seat itself, pretty comfy, maybe not quite as good as the Everest, which feels like it's got a little bit more padding. The Prado is built in Japan, and that for me is always a big win. And apart from a bit of a tinny sound when closing the doors, the Prado continues to look and feel rock solid. Delve a bit more into the detail of the cabin and the Prado doesn't impress as much as the Everest. For a start, storage up front is less generous as there is only one glove box, and the door pockets are very narrow. You won't fit a large drink bottle in there. No doubt, first glance, technical revolution here in the Prado with the big touch screen and the digital instrument panel. I wish there was a home page though on the touch screen, because you have to work through these various sub-menus down the side here, and it's quite a small area to stab at when you're driving. Do appreciate these hard buttons for the air conditioning controls though, great. And also this button dial for volume and audio on off. Bit small, but not as small as these buttons on the busy steering wheel. They're actually quite hard to pick up at night. The Prado isn't missing any key tech features, and it's pretty easy to hook up wirelessly to Apple CarPlay. And the smartphone charger is again well placed to avoid your phone turning into a projectile. The camera system of the Prado is comprehensive. Definitely a step ahead of the Everest, no doubt about that. But it was set up in the test car to switch on at very low speed, which wasn't handy if you were consulting a sat-nav map at the time. But that was easily fixed at the press of a button. The Prado has all sorts of camera-based parking assistance, including this transparent view and the ability to circle around the exterior to see what obstacles are nearby. But no automated hands or feet-free parking here either. So overall, it's much of a muchness when it comes to infotainment systems. The Prado gets a couple of extra speakers, 10 to 8 in its audio system, 7 USB ports to 5, and adds an HDMI port. Everest has 4 12-volt outlets. Both get 3-pin plugs to juice up appliances. Again, there's a lot that's similar when it comes to important safety items in the Everest and Prado. Beyond the big ticket driver assist systems, they both get 9 airbags. The Everest has child seat tethers across 2 rows, while the Prado only has them in row 2. The Everest has a 5-star ANCAP rating based on 2022 protocols, and the Prado's 5-star rating is based on the latest, slightly tougher 2024 protocols. For a vehicle that's nearly 5 metres long and has a 2900mm wheelbase, the Everest is actually slightly disappointing in terms of leg space for second row passengers. You really have to slide this seat back all the way to make yourself comfortable if you're a 6-foot passenger behind a 6-foot driver. But the problem there is you're then really curtailing space in row 3. There's no shortage of features here for passengers though, with fan control for the overhead vents, dual USB ports, map pockets, door pockets that will take a big bottle, and a fold-down armrest with pop-out cup holders. Access to and exit from row 3 is a bit of a challenge. The row 2 seat slides and tilts forward or sits flat. Look, it's knees up in here for adults and really only suitable for short trips. Kids should be happier, and good to know there are aircon vents and storage and curtain airbags extend all the way to row 3. Jump into the second row of the Prado, and one of the first things you'll notice is no sliding function for the seat, and that is a bit of a miss at this money in this segment. However, having said that, it's a pretty good compromise. Using the 6-footer behind 6-footer test, there's not too bad a leg space in here. Comfort features include a full set of aircon controls with adjustable overhead vents, dual USBs and a 12-volt, dual map pockets, door bins, although not quite big enough to take a big bottle, and a fold-down centre armrest with inbuilt cup holders. The way the second row seat tumbles forward is a win for the Prado when it comes to entering and exiting row 3. Again, considering there's no row 2 sliding adjustment, the compromise is pretty good. Better for kids for sure, and more vents here and curtain airbags that extend all the way back. Good job. Get to the boots of these two and it really is a case of what were the folks at Toyota thinking. Look, as has been widely reported, the floor is actually raised in the Prado to accommodate a battery for a hybrid system that's actually not sold in Australia. So the seat goes up and this flimsy sort of storage bin is packed in as well to make the whole area look level, I guess. The funny thing is about it all that actually the claimed luggage space is superior to the Everest in some way still, but to the naked eye that doesn't add up. Another thing to note about the Toyota Prado is payload compared to the old series goes down, and quite significantly. You literally cannot carry as much stuff in the new car. One of the nicest features of the Prado's rear end is the pop-up window, which makes it quicker to load small stuff. Both vehicles get a power tailgate. Well, up until we got to the boots, it was all pretty close, but right now I think the Everest has the advantage in terms of ease of use. Will that translate to the driving? Well, let's hit the road and find out. There's a certain local connection to the Everest because it's an Aussie developed vehicle. It's the latest in a long line of vehicles that have been engineered and designed in Australia, and they used to be manufactured here too. Sadly, that disappeared last decade. Anyway, it's more than an emotional bond because the local development work really does seem to have worked. The Everest feels well set up for our roads. The big V6 engine is integral to the Everest's relaxed but powerful character. Look, it never explodes, it never overwhelms, but its quiet strength is what makes it the best powertrain in any of these big 4x4s. Powertrain performance is backed up by a really well-tuned ride and handling package. The Everest comes with the usual 4x4 offering, double wishbones up front, coil springs and a rigid axle at the rear, but the civility levels are getting close to passenger car. It's really a refined vehicle to drive. Sure, this is a big and heavy vehicle, so it's definitely not nimble, but body roll is really well controlled and it never feels soggy. And the steering, well, it has that lovely light touch that Ford seems to be able to engineer in so well. The automatic transmission, well, 10 speeds sounds like a lot, don't they? And it is pretty busy, but it's not as in your face as some iterations of this gearbox I've tested in the past. The most annoying thing about it is you can't change gears manually in an orthodox way. Not off flappy pedals, none here. And the gear selector down here, the only way you can do it is via buttons on the side of the shifter, which is just not intuitive. You certainly ride high and handsome, big high platform, big windows, and not too many obstructions going out through the rear window. In fact, none. The Prado too has had its fair share of local tuning, and it too feels at home on Aussie roads, just not quite as at home as the Everest. Despite the addition of those extra 2 gears and the mild hybrid system, the engine still has that sense of Prado sluggishness. It's no rocket ship. It is, however, entirely competitive with other 4-cylinder 4x4 wagons like the Isuzu MU-X. It just can't match the Everest V6. The Prado is also not quite as together driving on the road. It's got the same fundamental suspension design as the Everest, but it's set up a bit softer, so there's a little bit more roll, there's a little bit more bounce. It's also noticeable there's a bit more of that frame shake that ladder frame vehicles generate over rougher surfaces. The Everest does a better job of quelling that stuff. It's also noticeable that the lane keeping assist system in the Prado is that little bit more intrusive than the system in the Everest. It's also a little bit more convoluted process to switch it off. Not really fussy, but just that little bit more involved drilling into the instrument panel. Do that and you'll really appreciate just how good the electric assist steering system of the new Prado is. It is night and day better than the old hydraulic system that the previous Prado had. It's so much better in terms of swiftness of response and accuracy. One of the biggest improvements in the new car, undoubtedly. When it comes to the refinement of the travelling experience in the cabin, the Everest definitely has the edge. The Prado's engine is noisier under acceleration and vibrates more at idle. It's also noticeable that you'll get wind rustle off the big mirrors. Generally speaking, it's just noisier in here than in the cabin of the Everest. Where the Prado's engine does a little bit better is in fuel economy, but it's not an overwhelming victory, which is what I actually expected with the addition of mild hybrid. By the way, the Prado's fuel tank capacity has come down again in the 250 to 110 litres, but it's still well up on the Everest 80 litres. But for me, that's not enough to swing the balance back the Toyota's way. The Everest is the nicer drive, but we've still got the off-roading to come. Okay, so we're at our off-road testing site now, and what's apparent is these two are vehicles capable of taking you a long way off the beaten track. The Everest comes with multiple off-road modes, low-range gearing and a rear diff lock. So I'm going to go through and just demonstrate in 4-low what happens without locking the rear diff and you haven't got the rear traction control on. So we're just going to try and crawl up here and see how we go. Feel and see, it's just not. Okay. So that was not successful. So that was low range without the locking diff. A lot of wheel spin. Okay, so now let's lock the diff and go again. This sort of mogully stuff is about as severe as most. There you go, straight over the obstacle that time. Yeah, this stuff is about as severe as most people would ever want to try. It's just got a bit of, it really does test droop, therefore traction. Now we may touch the side steps down on this car as we go up. Yep, there we go, just touched. I'm afraid it's a bit of a drawback with the Everest and the Ranger. They do tend to touch their side steps down. But there you go, that was pretty fuss-free. All up, pretty impressive. Down the other side, hill descent control is ultra quiet and smooth. There we go, just raise the speed slightly there via the cruise control. Now backed it off again. Very smooth, just a little bit of rear locking there. Now we're getting into quite a big rut and it's stepping across it. Yeah, that's a really well controlled, smooth downhill assist system. The Prado misses out on a rear diff lock, has no off-road drive modes and relies on off-road traction control to help low range get it up and over the most serious challenges. So we're going to run this car up the same mogul test as the Everest in 4-low and see how the Prado performs. So we are in 4-low. Away we go. It's that simple. There's nothing else to set in place, and it's very easy now to engage 4-low in this car. Just to pull back on on a knob, I guess you call it, or a slider. Okay, you can feel that there's the traction control system working that little bit harder just to figure itself out. Yeah, you're getting bits of wheel spin. It's going up. It just feels like it's doing it in a more laboured fashion than the Everest with the diff locked in. Of course, without the diff locked in, the Everest has no hope of getting up here. So the Prado system is simpler, less things to lock in and so on, but it's certainly pretty effective. So let's try downhill assist control on the new Prado. Now in the old Prado, the downhill assist control was a bit of a shocker, shuddering and graunching. So let's see what happens, see if it's improved. It's got a high bar to beat with the Everest, which was pretty impressive. All right, in we go to our test descent. Kind of. Oh, okay, a couple of shudders going on. Kind of lunges over the top and then sets itself up. It's that initial commitment, like jumping off the high tower at the pool or something. But anyway, okay, bit shuddery, but oh yeah, bit shuddery, but night and day improvement over the old Prado. Okay, that's good. Finally, just one more thing to mention, and that's towing. We didn't hitch these two up in this test, but they both claim 3,500 kilos of brake capacity. That's up 500 kilos for the new Prado, but payloads at maximum towing are poor for both vehicles. Bear that in mind if you're planning to use one of these for your round Australia trip. If you've got a big van, you may need a GVM upgrade. Okay, wow, that was a really comprehensive exercise. And I've got to say that the basic thing that stands out to me is just how impressive these two vehicles are. They have incredibly complex job briefs. They have to do so many different things, and really they do them very well. But having said that, given its price, performance and packaging advantages, the Ford Everest Sport V6 is a clear winner of this comparo. The Prado comes to market with huge hype, huge sales, huge expectations, and it's undoubtedly a good vehicle. But the Everest is that bit better. That the Prado also whacks us over the head with some huge price rises doesn't help its case. So for me, it's the Everest Sport V6 that I'm picking for my family adventure.